Right then, Tony. So, tell us, what do motorcycles mean to you?
Oh. I think it's because I've always been interested in physical things and doing things, and always wanted a push bike and a bicycle, and and it's progressed from there really. And it's a sense of freedom as well, like not being enclosed in a box in the car and stuff like that. I don't know really. Don't know how to answer that one. But.
Do you remember when you first saw a bike and thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind one of them?
I think it was probably seeing a bicycle first of all, and wanting a bicycle when I was sort of 6 or 7 years old, and and when I finally talked my mum and dad into getting me one, which was about 5 sizes too big for me, that was it. It was freedom. I was off. I could do my own thing, and just cycle where I wanted to, and
Lovely.
yeah.
So where were you at this point then? Where did you grow up as a young man?
In Crediton, yeah. My mum and dad had a pub in Crediton, and quite a successful pub. It's still there now. I think it's an Indian restaurant now at the moment. And I always remember back in 1953, it was the Queen's coronation, and my dad had hired a TV in the pub. We'd never seen a TV before. It was like a little square box thing, and it was to show the Queen's coronation. And what I remember about that was seeing pictures of Edmund Hillary and Tenzin Norgay climbing Mount Everest, and I thought, oh, I'd love to go there one day. And I was only about 7 or 8, but I went there twice in my life, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, my son went around the world, and he was going to Kathmandu, and I'd never been to Kathmandu, and he phoned up and said, we're off to Kathmandu, and me and Linda said, we're going to join you. So we went up there, and we went trekking all around the Everest region, and we met some guys that had been climbing mountains over there, and they climbed a mountain called Island Peak, which is what Edmund Hillary and Tenzin Norgay used as a training mountain for their oxygen and stuff. And me and Neil looked at each other and thought, we could do this, and so we went back the next year and did it. So, yeah, probably one of the hardest things I've done, but yeah.
So you moved to Exeter, and what were you like at school?
Rubbish. Yeah, I didn't enjoy school whatsoever, and it's quite weird really, because I was not very academic, but I obviously got a little bit of a brain, because I used to pass all the exams, but my general schoolwork was rubbish, but some had gone in and I used to remember it and do, I left school when I was 15 years old. My dad wanted me to be an apprentice jockey because I was quite light and small, but I did that for about a week, but it was getting up 5 o'clock in the morning and I didn't fancy that too much. So then I got an engineering apprenticeship and saved up enough money to get my first motorbike, which was a BSA Bantam. And never had a license or anything, never bothered with anything like that, but that gave me loads of freedom. And
so what did your dad think to that, or your mum? Were they happy that
they were horrified that I was getting a motorbike, right? So they bought me a car to stop me having a motorbike, which was like a Lotus. Well, it wasn't a Lotus Cortina. It was the old Cortina with the Ban the Bomb symbols on the back, and I got it resprayed in Lotus Cortina colours and everything. But But that was great, so that gave me a bit extra money. I didn't have to bother about cars and things, so I got another motorbike after that. got a 500 Triumph, and still didn't bother with the driving license or anything. So yeah, so me and Linda used to go everywhere on that one. Go to all the races at Brands Hatch and stuff, and yeah.
So when did you first meet Linda then?
We got married in 1966, so probably 2 years before that, yeah. And I think I married her when she was 18, so I was like 20, so yeah, so we got married quite young. So.
She's going to be watching this and she's going to be tutting now because you don't remember the exact date, the exact
I
time,
do.
and the exact location.
Yes, I do. It was December the 10th we got married, which is coming up soon, and that will be 55 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's put up with you that long?
Yeah.
So you bought your first bike and you had all of this freedom. When did you start racing?
Just after we got married. So we got married in 1966. I was fortunate enough, my mum and dad had a fairly successful pub, so they lent me the money to buy a terraced house, or the deposit on a terraced house, and I had a job, and I said to Linda, I want to start racing motorbikes, because that's all I was really interested in. I had two interests in life. It was racing motorbikes and running and athletics. So so I went along to the building society manager, told him a load of rubbish about having to do the house up and borrow enough money to buy a racing bike.
What did Linda say to you, turning around saying, I want a race bike?
Totally supportive. She was all for it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And was she into riding bikes as well?
No. She's supported me on everything I've done in my life. So yeah.
What was your first race like? Do you remember it?
Yeah. I the bike I got, it was quite uncompetitive. It was down in a place called St Eville in Cornwall. It's an old airfield circuit. Yeah. And I'd been riding on the road quite a bit and thought I was quite fast, but nothing prepared me for that. How manic it was when you start and everybody's trying to beat each other into the first corner. It's you think you can ride in fast on the road. It's nothing like racing, and it's so physical. Yeah.
Did you have any training then for that? Did somebody coach you how to do it?
No, just do it.
Just
do it.
And did you have to pay to enter these races? Or?
Yeah. Quite expensive sport. Even in those days, it was expensive. So it was taking all our money. So. Yeah.
And do you remember where you finished?
Well, in the first race? No, I don't actually. I think I did all right. No, I can't really remember the first one, but I came back and realised the bike I had was totally uncompetitive, and so then I'd borrowed money from somewhere else, I can't remember where now, and bought a 350 Manx Norton, which was like quite a good bike in those days. And I think I had it for like a little while, but then I won the Cornish Championship on it, so I was clearly doing quite good. And I got some photographs somewhere. There's a guy I beat in the Cornish Championship. It's called Mike Trimby. He runs MotoGP now, so I'm quite proud of that one.
So you've you're racing in Cornwall, and like I'd imagine it's very different to what it's like today when you see the MotoGP with lots of quite a bit safer than it was back then.
Yeah, there was no safety then. Well, there was safety, but we used to wear pudding basin helmets. And there were absolutely no runoffs whatsoever on the circuits, and yeah.
Did you ever come off?
Yeah, loads of times. Yeah. Sort of, I won't say every weekend, but it's part of it. And
wow.
Yeah, you have to accept that. And the leathers you had on then, like all the guys got now, with all armour in them, airbags in them. I just said thin leathers, and it's like, yeah. And it hurt.
was going to say, did you have any serious injuries, or were you okay?
Yeah, so I went for a year with the 350 Manx Norton, and then I had real ambitions of riding in the Isle of Man. And to ride in the Isle of Man, you have to have an international license. To get an international license in them days, you had to ride in what's equivalent of British Superbikes now and finish in the top 10 to get points. So I was mad keen to get my points for an international license. So by this time I got a 500 Manx Norton. I progressed from the 350 to the 500, and I went to Oulton Park up in Cheshire, and beginning of the year, and I fell off on a corner called Island Bend, which is a 90-mile-an-hour bend, which absolutely no runoff whatsoever. It's just straight into, well, glorified railway sleepers. Yeah, hit that pretty hard. Woke up in the medical centre because I was knocked out, and I looked down and I could see the bottom of my ankle. So, like, anyway, they took me off to Chester Hospital and gave me an anaesthetic, and it was dislocated, so they had to like put it back in again. So I came out of the hospital. Somebody put me up from the hospital and went back to the circuit. Then I had to drive home from Cheshire, my foot in plaster, on the accelerator pedal, and the pain was quite, as you can imagine, quite hard. So, yeah. So Linda put a pillow on the accelerator because it was hurting me. Anyway, I got home, and that was obviously I didn't get any points for my international license, but I had another race in 2 weeks' time. So I was determined to do that. And I had to go to RD&E hospital on the following Wednesday to assess the thing and do some x-rays on it. But by then, I knew some quite good speedway riders in Exeter, and they said just soak the plaster off. So I soaked the plaster off in the bath. Then they came home and there was white powder everywhere in the bathroom. Anyway, so I soaked the plaster off, went up to hospital on a Wednesday. They took one look at me and said, "Where's the plaster?" I said, "I've soaked it off." And I said, "I got another race in 2 weeks." She said, "You either put the plaster on now or we want nothing more to do with you." So I said, "Well, I'm going." And they confiscated my crutches as well because I'd soaked the plaster off. Anyway, so yeah, so I was back on the bike in 2 weeks' time. So.
Okay. So did you get your points that year?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I decided it was a bit of a struggle because I was still pretty sore with the leg, and I wasn't going quite so quick as I should be. So I actually, instead of doing the TT, I did the Manx Grand Prix, which you didn't have to have the same amount of points as the TT. So yeah.
And the race out there is notoriously dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how did you get on going around there?
Yeah, pretty good. Unfortunately, by that time I was riding a 350 Yamaha, which was like quite a quick bike, but it went on to one cylinder on the last lap, so I sort of toured the last 20 miles, which put me back quite a bit. But yeah, it was an experience. Yeah.
And so, do you have did you have like a pit crew or like a mechanic with you, or was it just?
Well, they were, but they were friends helping me. Yeah. And Linda. and of course, Linda, like at that time, she used to smoke a bit. I think she was like quite worried about what I was doing, obviously, and. In the pits and the start and finish area in the TT and the grandstand area, they got all the boards, and when you go for a certain section, it puts your number up, and because my bike went a bit wrong, it didn't come up on through this thing, and she didn't see it come up, and the helicopter had taken off, and the helicopter at that time only took off because of something serious had happened. So she had got really, really nervous, but it wasn't me anyway. But yeah, so. Yeah.
Did you get into trouble for that then?
No, but I always remember when I finished it, it's such a nerve-wracking event that I was bleeding all around my gums because I had been biting my lip, and the concentration levels are, you have to concentrate all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
All right, we wouldn't be doing this interview now.
At what point did you stop? Did you say, right, enough's enough now?
It was in '72, and quite a few guys I'd known had died and stuff. And Linda, we'd been married for quite a while by then, and she was getting a bit broody, shall we say, wanted children. I wouldn't have children when I was racing because I'd seen the consequences of it with other people when they'd had terrible accidents and stuff. So, so I decided to just stop. And,
Let's talk a little bit about your children
then. Well, Neil didn't come along until 75. So I stopped racing in 72. But we also wanted to do a few things because racing was so not just intense. It takes all your life over, and when you stop, you're coming down from a big high, and you can't just stop. It's really job to explain it, because you've been so wrapped up in it, and you get such an adrenaline rush, and when you finish a race, it's like quite unbelievable. So we decided to do a few things with our lives, and so that's why I bought the Honda 754, because we wanted to do a bit of touring, and which we did. So
Yeah, I can imagine being like that intense and that, like you say, that adrenaline rush to then. I suppose
just looking after the garden. No, it doesn't work. Yeah.
So how do you adjust from that, going from like I was going to say 100 miles an hour, but probably more than that, literally more than 100 miles an hour to almost.
It's quite difficult. And I can imagine these guys now, like really good riders, international riders, and then they retire. I just how they cope with it. It's difficult.
So what were you doing to get? Was there anything close to getting that buzz and that adrenaline kick for you?
Well, I started riding motocross and trials and doing stuff like that with a bunch of mates and everything. So that was good. Yeah.
So you still dipped your toe in a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Honda.
Mhm.
Because obviously that's done almost a U-turn now. It's sort of it's returned, but talk to us about like when you guys bought it and what you did with it and things like that.
Well, one of my motorcycle heroes was Mike Hailwood, and Honda had developed a multi-cylinder 4-cylinder bike and a 6-cylinder bike to race, and Mike Hailwood was racing it. There's a photograph of him up there if you want to look at it sometime. But so that was like, and we used to go around following him racing and everything. But then Honda brought out a road bike based, 4-cylinder road bike, sort of based on Mike Hailwood's race bike. And I had finished racing and I thought, I got to have one. So I got one. So anyway, so that's basically why we got it. Yeah.
And what did you do with it? Did you go anywhere on it?
Well, we've travelled a lot in this country and on the continent, and I got an old picture of Linda on it at Dover Docks, and we were going to go down to the south of France, and we went over from Dover Docks to Paris, camped there for a night, and then we rode from Paris down to Marseille in a day. I got stopped speeding twice by the gendarmes. First one, they pulled me off the autoroute and told me I was going too fast, and I come up with a story, and I said I had a bee in my helmet, and I was pulling off the motorway to Anyway, they believe that. But yeah. So.
So you toured around.
Yeah.
Before the kids came along.
Yeah.
And then
when Linda got pregnant, I still had the Honda, and we were enjoying our life. Linda got pregnant. And she was getting bigger and bigger and kicking on the back. So I bought a sidecar and bolted it on the Honda. And that was pretty cool. So, and I remember, I'm pretty sure I got some photographs somewhere. I used to take her up to the maternity clinic in the sidecar. She had a job to get in because she was quite big. And anyway, I got a photograph somewhere, and I picked up Neil as a baby with Linda, and Neil was a baby in the sidecar. So yeah, and so that was all right. But it became obvious that it wasn't really a family form of transport. So yeah, I had to sort of realise life goes on. So yeah, the bike went.
So you have to get a family car then,
Yeah,
did you?
family car. Well, we didn't get a family car. We actually got a 3-litre Capri, the big 6-cylinder ones with the hump in the bonnet, and a little tiny motorbike to go around on.
I love that. So, did you get Neil into bikes, or?
No, Neil's never been into motorbikes. Never. No, I wish he was, but yeah, no.
What about Claire?
Claire is, yeah. As we grew up, Claire wanted a motorbike, and yeah. So I relented and let her have one in the end. Yeah.
So does she take after her dad big time then, does she?
A little bit, yeah.
So obviously you like a challenge, and it sounds to me as if Claire's got a bit of that challenge about her as well. So are you two competitive?
I suppose I've always been a bit competitive, and when I was racing motorbikes, first of all, I used to run a little bit to keep fit. And then when I started doing a bit of motocross, motocross is, I don't know if you've ridden a motocross bike, but it's physically hard. So I used to run a little bit then, and but then as things went on, and then the marathon boom started, and so I started running quite a bit. So, yeah. I ran in the first Exeter Marathon. And I'd never hardly did any training for it, and I did 3 hours and 10 minutes, which was not bad, So, and the coach in Exeter Harriers persuaded me to join, and that started a whole new thing in our lives. Then, so I started running sort of 70, 80 miles a week, sometimes 100 miles a week, and you got to run 15 miles a day to run 100 miles a week, so just think about that for a minute. It's pretty tough. So yeah, so I had some quite good times, but nothing fantastic national wise, but I've run 2:46 for a marathon, and 34 minutes for 10k, and 56 minutes for 10 miles. But we also had a brilliant time, myself and Linda, with the club, because we got really involved in it. I was the club treasurer and men's team manager for quite a while. Helped raise all the money for lottery money for club pavilion. My name's still up on the board as you walk in the clubhouse, and yeah, so we had some really fantastic times there. Yeah. I'd still run now if I could, but I can't. So yeah.
Now must be the time then for retirement, I guess, and it must mean then that you're not doing any sort of running or motorbiking or cycling.
Yeah, I'm doing all three. No, I'm not doing hardly any running, it's true. Yeah, but I was still trying to run in my mid-60s, and it was obvious I was getting slower and slower and slower. And all my friends were trying to persuade me to get a bicycle and everything. So on my 70th birthday, I bought myself a nice carbon road bike. So, and that opened up a complete new road to me of, of all the technicalities of bicycles and stuff. And yeah, so I had that first bike for about 2 years, and then got a really expensive one, like you do, and all the kit. So yes, and locally I'm the fastest in my age group on Strava in all the local segments and stuff, and I do quite a few sportives and whatever, and I do a lot of turbo training as well on a platform called Zwift, so I'm quite well up in that and worldwide in my sort of age group, so it's quite good. Yeah.
And is that something that you and Claire do together?
Yeah. I was really... Neil, my son, started cycling first of all. He was a little bit the same as me. He used to do a bit of running. In fact, when he was younger, he was ranked 8th in Great Britain at 800 metres. But he's got a bit of a dodgy knee, and I said to Neil, just get yourself a bike, Neil. So he did. So he got himself a bike, and now he's for a little while I was quicker than him, but all of a sudden he's gone, which is great, yeah. And then Neil and Claire got herself a bike, so that was lovely as well. So it's fantastic now when we all ride together. We do it on the road sometimes, and then sometimes we do it on the on Zwift. So it's lovely, fantastic.
Do you have a favourite of all the bikes you've owned? Do you have a favourite bike that you've had?
Oh, some of the 350 two-strokes and stuff that I was racing, a fantastic noise, absolutely, awesome things, probably that would be it. If I could afford to get one of those now, I might get it. But of course, you can't ride them on the road because they're not road legal, and
And let's come back to the Honda again then, because obviously that was the first bike that you and Linda bought together to go off on your travels.
The first nice bike, put it that way.
And all of a sudden, there's one shining proudly in the garage right now. So how did that happen?
We've been looking at it for quite a few years, just thinking about it, and I'd done all the market research on it, so I knew roughly what the market value was of it, and so we've been thinking about it for quite a while, and then unfortunately Linda had a big cancer scare beginning of this year, and so she had to have a major operation, which was all successful. So within 2 or 3 months, she was completely free of cancer and had all the treatment, etc. But she's quite a strong. She doesn't look it, Linda. She doesn't act it. She's a very strong person mentally, and she just said, "Go on and get that bike. We got some living to do." So we did. So that's the reason why we got it now. So we were lucky to find one exactly the same colour, same year, near enough to say exactly the same as the one we had back in the 70s. So.
And have you two reenacted some of those scenes back in the I need to rephrase that.
No. So instead of riding from Paris to Marseille in a day, we go over to Instow or Bideford and have a cup of coffee and come back again.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it was Linda's birthday back on the 20th September. It was a lovely day, and I said, "What do you want to do today?" Oh, she said, "Why don't we go for a ride on the bike?" So there's a lovely little outdoor cafe in Bideford on the quay. So we went over there, and so we had a lovely meal, sat there, and I quite like parking the bike up along here because people come and look at it, and there's a few other old bikes there parked up. Anyway, so we spent a bit of time there, and so we went up to go, and Linda thought I was going this way, I said I was going that way, and we lost balance and fell off. And all these people had been looking at the bike before, and anyway, it was really embarrassing. So we picked the bike up quickly and rode off. And anyway, went up for a bit more of a spin and then come home. And I said to her, it's not every 73-year-old lady gets to fall off a motorbike on her birthday. So, yeah.
I have to ask, Tony, because knowing you, you know, it doesn't look as if there's any slowing down or stopping. So what's next? What are we doing next?
Yeah, obviously, like, yeah, you start to slow down when you get older. Obviously, yeah. Mm.
So no more bikes in the.
Well, I wouldn't say that. There's probably if I win the lottery or something, I don't know. But yeah. I've got so many things we've done in our lives, and we've been really fortunate to travel different places, South America, Nepal, all sorts of places. I think I've been really fortunate that I realised at a young age that there's certain times in your life when you can do things that you will not be able to do when you get older. And I think I was lucky that I realised if I wanted to race motorbikes, I need to do it when I'm in my 20s, early 30s. And if I wanted to run, I need to do that when I was younger, and so on and so on. So the moral of the story really is do things when you can, because age is going to catch up with you and you won't be able to do it. I think you have to have a balance. You need to be able to do physical things, but you need to be also just to relax your brain a little bit. And I think a couple of wines doesn't hurt, does it? Yeah.
Is that what you do to just relax? Is that, or you know, are we going to find out that you're a champion painter or?
Oh yeah, I used to paint. Yeah. Do you want to see some of my paintings?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah. Definitely.
What now?
Yeah, we'll go and grab them. Yeah, let's have a look. Should bring us something that you've got. Look at this.
77. So I finished racing in 72. I was looking for other things to do, so I used to go to nude arts classes in Exeter.
Well, I've seen a different side of Linda now.
Hold it there.
You got to fit this in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I got some others somewhere, but I can't find it.
I totally said that as I thought. Oh, I'll pick something that you
completely random.